you come up, we do need your name and your address for the record. And then Tom Winham, you're on deck on this side, please.
Thank you and good evening. I just submitted a card. Didn't expect to be the first one pulled. But for the record, Rick Green. I live at 9584 Phipps Lane. That's in Olympia. I currently serve as the Director of Development Services for the City of West Palm Beach, overseeing planning, zoning, building, code enforcement, and historic preservation.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Thank you for helping us build this village hall. Really
Thank you. This is my building. I'm very proud of it, but I wish I'd built more seats. But thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did serve for many years, or a few years, with the City of West Palm Beach under Paul's leadership, and I appreciated the opportunity. I had a wonderful time working here. I also served as a vice president for two of the proposers. But having said that, I know many of the proposers, work with them on a daily basis. Just like to make some comments that hopefully the commission can take into consideration. Beginning with the Bainbridge development, I mean, some folks did make some comments about the density. I share that concern. 780 residential units is equivalent to about 560 single-family homes. So again, that's a great amount of development. My concern also is that the project seems to be turned inward toward the lake. You have surface parking on both Stribling and State Road 7. So I think the site plan, if you choose to go that route, I think could be enhanced by trying to eliminate the eyesore with all that surface parking on the perimeter. The DeVosta project, I think, again, has some merit. Again, a less dense scale, 220 units, the 90 beds. But as a resident who lives within walking distance of this site, my first thought is what would be of greatest interest to me and my family. And when I look at that, I look at the Wellington Gardens proposal. I see the opportunities that provides. Just a couple of comments. I'm concerned about the gas station right on the corner. I think at that prominent intersection at Stribling and State Road 7, I think an entry feature or something of significance could be built there. You do have some surface parking along Stribling Way. I don't know if there's an opportunity, again, to maybe put some structures or what they call liner units to hide some of that parking from Stribling as you're coming down the street. But all in all, I think with the botanical gardens, the mix of uses, this is a project I think I would like to come visit. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. As you know, my name is Mike Nelson. I've presented issues to you three and the former two and the other two council members on a number of occasions. I am here tonight representing the Wellington Chamber of Commerce, and I can't tell you how many times I have been here with Tony and with Bart, and we were the only people in this audience, and look tonight. It's amazing how many people have come out for this issue. And are staying. Right? A lot of us bail out. Let me remind you about a year ago what your plan was. Your plan was a year ago to sell the land for $10 million, and it was going to be sold to a horse park, which had no financial backing whatsoever. In addition to your selling it for $10 million, you were going to float a bond that would be paid for by the residents of Wellington for the infrastructure for this horse park. Fortunately, Ann and Howard fought this, and fortunately the Wellington Chamber of Commerce fought this also, and we demanded that you allow an open process and other people to bid, and you did. And I think we have 6 strong bidders, and I think we have 6 different concepts. What we don't need is residential. If you take a look at the residential, if there's going to be over 700 units, that was over 5,000 trips a day that's going to be forced to go on Stribling Road, Stribling Way. You know how many close accidents we've had with the intersection at Fairlane Farms and Stribling Way. That's a terrible intersection. All you're going to do is have more accidents, and eventually you're going to have a death there. We don't need residential. What do we need? We need entertainment. We need multi-generational entertainment. We need green space. We need public space. And although the Chamber is not endorsing any one particular program, what we do suggest is you give a strong look at Wellington Gardens. Vice Mayor Green, that was your choice, and I think it was a smart choice. I think that is the best for Wellington. Mayor Margolis, you also ranked it pretty high. And I think that the Wellington Gardens is really what this community needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then on deck, Adam Schumers. Apologize for some of the pronunciations.
Hi, my name is Satish Raju. I live in 4713 Sienna Circle in Castellina. I'm relatively a new resident in this town. I've been here about 2 years. And when I came here, I saw a vision of a lot of new people moving here looking for the future of Western Palm Beach County. And I think you have a unique opportunity to leave a legacy for the next 50 to 70 years. I mean, this is a huge opportunity. And to leave it with a bunch of apartment units that are going to be run down in 20 years with a bunch of parking lots, I think is just a crime to even think that way. You guys are leaders. When I look at the city of West Palm Beach, I was a young professional. I lived downtown, and that's what I looked for. And, all the corruption and all these things that happened, the things that people think about is Louis Frankel built a beautiful park, gardens, pavilions, landscaped waterfront properties. That's what they're going to remember her for. I want you guys to be remembered for building the greatest development in Western Palm Beach County, and that's Wellington Gardens. So.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll be very brief. My name is Alex Real, R-E-A-L. I live at 10660 Ivanhoe Lane in Wellington, the Oklahoma States. And actually, I'm only here because of the grade sheets that came out. And in reviewing them all, there was only one area that didn't have a column, okay? And that's what the residents want. Right? Everything else was on there. Okay? And from what I've seen so far, I don't think anybody here is here to make sure we get the biggest amount of money for that piece of land.
Right.
That's not what it's about. I haven't heard a lot of people speaking about the impact to our schools, okay, which happen to be right across the street. We have the major schools that are on the corner from them. The impact to our drainage systems, because that's an awful lot of paved ground out there with drainage problems as it is in that corner. These are all things that need to be addressed. I've had a lot of my questions answered. That's why I'm going to be brief. I'm not against development because it's inevitable. We know that. Okay? But so far, the gardens is the only one that I've seen that was giving us something back.
Mr. Flack, and then Alan Lawson, please.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is William Flack. I live at 9580 Phipps Lane in the Olympia Village. I am the president of the Board of Directors and the Master Association of that, and I am authorized to be here on behalf of the residents of Olympia and the board. 2008, you purchased property with the promise that it would be returned to us, the public, for our use. And as you sit here today, 60% of this council is going to vote on the most important parcel that is owned by this city. And 40% of you favored the #1 ranking. Councilman Green liked Wellington Gardens the first. So if you vote by the rankings, you disservice to all of us. We do not want apartments in our rear yard. I ask you about the process. So unusual in this case. Did you have staff give you information, guide you, and advise you, as opposed to the three of you sitting here now making decisions on things without any guidance or advice by any staff or ad hoc committee? That is improper. That is not the way you should do things. You came out with public rankings a while ago. Did you hear from any of us before you made those public rankings? Did you consider what the community had to say? You did not. You ranked them without hearing from us. You disregarded completely how your residents felt. This is a grassroots production today because this council went out of its way, in my opinion, to hide from most of us what was going on. 6 hours of talks behind closed doors. Why? Shouldn't do that. We want our input, but you didn't let us do that. A website that you put up, when you go to it to find out the details, the print is all the same. One wouldn't know unless they pressed to see that you could go places on that. Why? Why is this being all done in a clandestine manner? And first today, our first thoughts. In the end, I can only say to you this. One proposer here has given what the people want. Have you heard? You have heard what is said. Will you listen to us?
Sal Van Cashman, 10457 Trianon Place. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Wilhite, Mr. Green. It's good to see you all again. I am the president of the HOA at Versailles here in Wellington. I've been a member on the board since day one. After hearing my daughter speak earlier this evening, I don't stand a chance of getting reelected if she chooses to run against me. You all know the history of my community at Versailles. My community suffered the greatest damage of all when the mortgage crisis hit the city of Wellington. We were literally on the verge of bankruptcy. And I'm very pleased to tell you and the rest of the gathering here tonight, my community is back and better than ever. Not only are we financially sound, but like many other communities, our home values are on the increase. The last thing my community needs is for a development that would affect the values of the homes, not only in Versailles, but Oakmont, Castellina, and Olympia, all of whom you've heard from tonight. Putting in over 700 apartment buildings on that piece of property, in my opinion, would greatly damage the values of all of our properties, and it's something none of us need at this point in time. Hi. Only me. Yes. On behalf of my community and on behalf of my board of directors, I want to inform you that we fully and totally support the Wellington Gardens project.
Thanks, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Town Council. My name is Greg Taylor. I am at 3395 Vanderbilt Drive. I am a Wellington resident living in Oakmont Estates, a neighborhood which lies off Stribling Way, directly adjacent to the proposed K Park property being offered for sale and development. I live there with my wife and 3 young children, and I currently serve as president of the board of directors for the Homeowners Association there. I'm here tonight because there's concern among Oakmont residents that I've spoken with that this selection process is heading down the wrong path and has not effectively gathered community input about what the people want for K Park. After analyzing the process by which scores were generated to rank potential projects, it's my feeling that the process has been flawed. There are also questions I have as to the justification for certain scores that were given to potential developers. I'm concerned that the village has not sought enough input from the taxpayers as to our present preference for this development. Suffice it to say that with all due respect to the developers, all residents I spoke with strongly oppose the idea of almost 800 apartments and a sea of parking whose hardscape takes up 55 of 70 acres on that site. As a direct neighbor to the proposed development and vested member of the community, I find it interesting that Wellington Gardens is the only project that has continually sought input and opinion from residents. They are also the only project giving land back to Wellington in the form of a botanical garden. It's for these reasons, among others, and because Wellington currently has nothing like the proposed development of Wellington Gardens, that I personally feel Wellington Gardens Partners is the best choice of developers currently. I hope the council will listen to its residents and taxpayers and rethink their positions to fully reflect the benefits offered by the proposed developments to the overall community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
My name is David Hexter. I live at 4650 Sienna Circle. That's in Castellina, which is directly across the street from the K Park. I'm a CPA and a Wellington resident since 2003. In listening to everyone speak and having read over the proposals, it makes me wonder, why did I move to Wellington? And the biggest reason was the high percentage of single-family homes. This is a community, and I don't like a lot of apartments. I want what's best for Wellington, and I, along with all these other people here, or many of them, don't believe almost 800 apartments is in the best interest of our community. As a CPA, it is my opinion that the council would be extremely short-sighted in selecting the highest bidder, Bainbridge, for the K Park property. The effect on property values would clearly be negative. I remember reading in the paper one day that Wellington has the second highest per capita income in Palm Beach County. That is not because of apartments, gentlemen. I urge the council to vote for the Wellington Gardens proposal. To reiterate what maybe 50 other people have already said, we need a place to go other than Palm Beach Gardens, Delray, or City Place. I'm tired of driving. In some, because much of what I have down here has already been said, I'm against the almost 800 apartments and what it would do and not do for our community. Again, I urge you to select the Wellington Gardens proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Michael Barker. I live at 3191 Sienna Circle in Castellina. I think that you guys have gotten the message here tonight. The one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is I do find fault with your scoring system for this project. And I think it really leaves you open for a lot of speculation as to influence on this project. And the reason why is when you look at your scoring system, you have 25 points offered for the price of the land. That shouldn't be, you should dictate the price of that property out there, if in fact you're going to sell it to someone. I don't think that's something that you give points for. As far as the 25 points to the bidders for background and qualifications, either they have the background and qualifications to do this project or they don't. Giving points to them, I don't get it. I'll say the same with the points for the ability to manage and execute. Either they can or they can't, and you look at their past record and make that decision. So that leaves one thing open, and that's the site plan. And that site plan, this is a parcel of land that belongs to the community, and in some way, shape, or form, it should be dictated by the community what goes there. Thank you.
Clarence Odom.
Adam Shmunis, 2720 Shaughnessy Lane in the neighborhood of Olympia. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for allowing me to come up and speak, as well as all the great Wellington residents behind me. I moved in the neighborhood about 7 years ago. Had my daughter, bringing up a family, love Wellington. We've actually had many of our friends move here just after they came to visit us. It's amazing to see where we've come from and where we've grown to. We've seen, over the last 7 years, the market bottom out. We've seen foreclosures on the highest they've ever been. We've seen communities throughout South Florida, Section 8 homes and Section 8 housing increase just because of the bottom out, and that's exactly what would happen when it happens again. It's not if it happens again, it's when the market has another fall. We don't need to see apartments full of Section 8 housing, as well as additional schools that we're going to have to build to be able to manage the amount of children that are going to be in this property. We need to seriously think about what this community is about, what we want to be able to do with our families. You take a look at downtown Delray. You take a look at East and West. You take a look at Palm Beach Gardens. You look at Boca. Every single one of those locations has a central point for their community to come to. We leave our community to go there. Let's bring the money to us. Let's bring the money to our community. Look, we need to create jobs. We need to see the change happen. Wellington Green is where we need to be. If it's not Wellington Green, something like Wellington Green. But they've proposed the solution that's going to best fit this community, that's going to give us an image, that's going to bring more people to our community moving forward. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Anne Marie Van Castren, 10457 Trianon Place, Wellington, Florida. First of all, I would like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the council members for allowing me to speak on behalf of my family and the community. When my father, Sal Van Castren, spoke to me about the Wellington Gardens project, I was absolutely ecstatic. Growing up in Versailles, which is such a beautiful neighborhood, there was never really a place for us to come together as a family to socialize and to really appreciate the city of Wellington. As a young adult, on a Friday night, my friends and I discussed different options about where to meet up for dinner, have a few drinks, and share a few laughs. The places usually mentioned are Meisner Park, Delray, City Place, and Palm Beach Gardens. And after a long day of work, the last things my friends and I would like to do is to drive 30 minutes somewhere, to mingle for a few hours, and then have to make a drive back home late at night. The few times I've mentioned to go out locally within Wellington, I always get the same response, well, what is there really to do in Wellington? I believe by approving this proposal for Wellington Gardens, our town will be on the map, competing with the beautiful towns of Boca Raton, which I currently live in, Palm Beach, Delray, and Palm Beach Gardens. And not only will it increase the revenue for our town by keeping our own people within our community, but I believe it will make it more attractive to other communities to come visit Wellington. With building additional residential areas, I believe it will cause nothing but unnecessary aggravation. Home values are currently on the rise again, and 700 apartments will negatively affect the value of each and every residential community in the vicinity. The last thing we need... The last thing, especially being a young adult, and I think we need, is another mass exodus of homeowners. The Wellington Gardens project will create a strong community while holding true to Wellington's sophistication and classiness. It will also give the younger generations of this town a place to enjoy right in their own backyards, and not to mention making parents very, very happy. I believe that it is safe to say that I am speaking on the behalf of the young people of my generation that have been residing in Wellington all their life, that this proposal will change the future of this community. Thank you.
Good job. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Dr. Neil Warshoff, 897 Horseshoe. I'm a pulmonologist. I've served this town for 25 years. And I just want to thank you for everything you guys do. I know how hard this is, and really I know how difficult it is to serve. But if I sat here this evening listening to all the presentations, one thing's become crystal clear. This open tract of land we call K-Park has become an important and central feature in the future planning and development of Wellington. K-Park, as everybody has said, the original purpose is to be a park for our children, for all of us to enjoy. We all benefit from, and is now in danger of being sold to an apartment complex, benefiting a developer who's seemingly just trying to cash in and not giving anything back to Wellington's families. Just think, for example, how Wellington has welcomed the equestrian community. It's embraced them as a central theme for our future. Over time, we have all benefited from this association, both culturally and economically. Our experience there shows the true value of that decision. I think to myself now, how will the different proposals we hear tonight affect Wellington's future? Where is their value to us as a community? Think for a moment of the value added to our community by having a central meeting place with fine dining, cultural events, complete with activities for our children, where we have a meld of entertainment, good economy, and protection of our environment. Wellington Gardens' well-thought-out proposal is considerate of all the future needs. What they propose to give back to our community outshines everyone else. And that's why it's the only proposal that returns something to the families of Wellington, real value. This clearly far outweighs the extra $5 million we received from the Bainbridge to build another strip mall and gated apartment complex and acres of parking lots. Wellington already has too much of that. But more to the point, what's the value of that for our children, our families, and to Wellington itself? I agree the developer certainly gets a lot of value, but for the residents of Wellington, there's none. What could be better for Wellington in a public, pedestrian, central common area, predominated by green spaces, with movie theaters, bowling alleys, restaurants, a botanical garden, with cultural experiences for all of us, areas where our children can explore, learn, and express themselves in a positive way. Isn't that what Wellington is truly about?
It is. Yes, it is.
Hi, good evening. My name is Julie Mock. I live at 9829 Stover Way in Olympia, and I'm here to represent for my husband and our 4 children. We moved here about 4 years ago, and at that time we had a cow pasture across the street from us off of 441, and now we have a couple strip malls, lots of fast food, all kinds of things have gone on. I think it's sufficiently, the entire village of Wellington actually is sufficiently saturated with apartment complexes, assisted living facilities, hotels, strip malls, fly-by-night restaurants. I think we have enough of those things already. We have children who cross the road there at Stribling and 441 to get to school. And from what I understand, we're already having traffic issues and security issues there at 441 with the addition of the charter school. So all of those things need to be considered, obviously, in addition to the impact on our parks and our schools with any multifamily residential dwellings going in. Just not a good idea. And then lastly, listen to the people like everybody else has said. Forgive me, I'm not a public speaker, so it takes a lot for me to get up here and represent how I feel and represent for my family. And I'd like to remind you as well, Council, that you fought long and hard to protect the interests of just a few wealthy landowners that were being impacted by the Bellissimo equestrian project. We have over 2,000 homes being affected by this development within about a mile of that development. I just ask that you represent us as adamantly and in the best interests as you did that.
Good evening. My name is Henry Schneidman. I live at 3633 Siena Circle, again in Castellina. And as you've heard tonight, I think everyone in this room is united in opposing apartments and concrete and anything but green space. And I think it's a very simple decision you have to make. And I think putting the dollar aside is the way to make that decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor, Mr. Mayor. I put my wife's name first because this is the first time she pushed me to come here and said, text me, stay as long as it can, it takes to and speak. It's the first time. So she is a physician, and we've been in Wellington for last 13 years, and 1069 One Versailles Boulevard. And I really like to follow the first speaker, that Rick Green. He spoke on behalf of us as expert, and I think we should listen to him, and also we should listen to all the residents. When my wife heard it, that K Park is going to be a 740-something apartment, she said, it doesn't make sense. K Park's supposed to be park. Mostly, that's the name for. She thinks simple. So my endorsement personally is for the Wellington Garden, and I would like to also remind you that and applaud you for choosing a right person as the councilman, additional councilman. He's not here. I know their family for the last 15 years, and that's the right decision the council made. And I'd ask you to make another right decision and listen to the residents, please. Thank you.
Doctor.
I'm Dr. Ronald L. Cole. I live at 3445 Oakmont Estates. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist. I also have a master's degree in civil engineering. I'm a registered professional civil engineer. I worked as a project engineer, so I'm familiar with these type of projects and worked with them. I'm also a homeowner and a resident of Oakmont Estates, which borders this K Park property and everything. Myself and other residents feel very strong that a multi-family apartment project is the worst choice of the current K Park proposal. Also, 4-story apartment buildings will destroy the personal privacy in surrounding homes and everything. I was going to talk about the disadvantage of apartments. I don't need to. I think everybody's spoken pretty well of that, and we know the deteriorating effects that it can cause. The highest bid for the #1 rated project cannot be the only deciding factor in making this decision. I think most importantly, we need to realize that K Park property is the remaining crown jewel of property and real estate in Wellington and most of Palm Beach, Florida. But it seems as though the current council is trying to convert that back to a lump of coal, and we can't do that. Okay? If we look at what would be advisable, I think certainly the #1 would be to go back to the original cause or purpose of this property, and that's for green area, park area. So that should be the priority. If there's any housing, it should be single family or senior living, which I don't really recommend housing on that at all, but obviously also any commercial and entertainment portion should be on 441, and it could be featured after Delray Marketplace, which is a fun and entertaining area and everything. I think you can tell by simply looking around the room that, and I've been on the HOA board, and this many people don't come when they agree with what you all are doing. Okay? So I'd suggest that you go back to the drawing boards, listen real close. There's only one opinion in this room that's kind of fun. Of course, if you talk about the characteristics I described, we're pretty well describing one. Is it a perfect example and what we want? Probably could be better and everything, but we deserve more, and certainly you need to rethink all this and come up with a real solution that's going to satisfy us, and let not the holy dollar be the deciding factor. Okay? I appreciate your time, and we'll all be closely watching your future actions.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay?